Trade in Zambia and world over has evolved over the years. From times when people would move thousands of kilometers for many months across continents just to do business, to an era where doing business is just a click away on a mobile phone or on a computer. On today's edition of News in Depth, we look at the evolution and development of e-commerce in Zambia. To take you through this exciting journey, I'm your host, Masaoso Mukwayaya. Stay tuned. In the 20th century, the world witnessed the invention of the internet and telecommunications. Internet and telecommunications have already been tipped to be one of the most profound results of human ingenuity. This is because of the immeasurable opportunities that it has created in sectors such as trade and commerce. Unlike in the olden days when people would move for months across continents to engage in various businesses, it has become easier, as doing business is just a click away on a mobile phone or computer. This has been made possible by the emergence of e-commerce. Mawano Kambeu is founder and chief executive officer of .com Zambia, an indigenous e-commerce company with footprints in the United States of America, USA. Mr. Kambeu has closely followed the development of e-commerce in the country. He feels the sector has taken a little longer than expected to grow and consequently run commerce in the country.
We have a long way to go in that journey. But I think for me, the evolution really began with the arrival of internet and the advancement in smartphones. That's where we've really seen the power of the internet and e-commerce to do transactions. And that's what we're beginning to see today in Zambia, the evolution of that. Well, in the beginning, e-commerce was very difficult because e-commerce we define as doing transactions electronically. And I remember when we started, that was back in 2009, it was actually very difficult to do full-blown electronic transactions. In fact, what we were using mostly was emails back and forth and maybe SMS messages to try and get transactions done. So it's very different from sort of the end-to-end process we are at now, where someone could go to an electronic portal, start a transaction and complete it through to completion. And that shows the advancement that we've made over the years, from the day when we had to do everything by email to now where we can automate a lot of the processes through technology.
E-commerce, which means electronic commerce, also known as EC, is the buying and selling of goods and services or the transmitting of funds or data over an electronic network platform which primarily uses the internet. Business transactions on e-commerce platforms are conducted either as consumer to consumer, consumer to business, business to business, or business to consumer. In some circles, e-commerce is known as e-business. Realizing the immense power and ability of e-commerce to transform the business atmosphere in Zambia, government has coined an ambitious campaign dubbed Smart Zambia. Smart Zambia aims to transform the country through information and communication technologies. The Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry is moving to ensure businesses in Zambia operate more efficiently by embracing e-commerce.
Well, e-commerce for us is a very important part of what we are doing in terms of developing businesses in Zambia. And e-commerce, as you know, is all about having your business done over the internet or through a network, a platform. And it takes many forms. You can either do it from a business to a business, or a consumer to a business, or a consumer to a consumer. So there are various forms in which it takes, but all of it is done over a platform. Well, I think, as you know, in Smart Zambia, we're looking at using ICTs to make things much easier in terms of doing business for us as a ministry, reducing transaction costs, and also bringing in some efficiencies which exist when you use new technology and so on. I think we have a lot of examples in Zambia of certain ICT platforms that we've introduced which are really yielding results. For example, if you look at the single window, where we are incorporating all government agencies into one platform. That is already yielding results. And just recently, we came back from the WTO Aid for Trade meeting where we were showcasing one of the platforms that we are using for the Zambia Bureau of Standards in terms of interacting with the public. So for us, it's a very, very important sector.
And the Ministry of Transport and Communication has noted that technology, specifically e-commerce, is a new and exciting virtual resource, which, if embraced, will build benchmarks to create scaffolds that will propel the country to greater developmental heights.
You are aware that as government, we're actually pushing very hard through the President, through the Smart Zambia, and the ministry itself, and also ZICTA, the regulator, the migration of our country, our economy, our way of doing things to a digital platform, away from the analog. And as we do that, as a ministry, where the regulator sits, we actually are in a very, very tough position to make sure that we make sense of this, because how we unpack it and how we roll it out to the general public actually can either accelerate the deployment of the technology, or it can actually impede it. So we've been very careful and meticulous in trying to understand how we do this and do it in the most efficient way, and curb any type of unwanted encumbrances on this turf and on this platform. That nation that's going to understand the power of ICT and apply it to its day-to-day living is going to see growths exponentially that are ahead of. And we want to be ready to harness the power of the ICT and make sure that we lay the foundation, soft infrastructure, hard infrastructure, and regulation and policies to support the effective rollout of this e-commerce, as it were.
During the initial stages of e-commerce in Zambia, the country lacked the necessary technology and expertise to support the emerging sector. Players in the industry had to outsource services from other countries. Bongo Hive is one of the country's most successful private technology hubs. The hub feels the country now has the necessary technology to fuel the growth of e-commerce.
The technology is not a problem. The technology has been around for a long time. So a lot of what people are putting up is based on technology that already works and that works in other countries. What we now need to move to is adoption. And adoption requires confidence by people, and confidence in the sense that if I make a transaction for 100 kwacha online, I need to be assured that I'll receive it. I need to be assured that I can talk to someone if there's a delay. I need to be assured that I can return it if there's something defective or wrong with that. So I think that's the new hurdle that we're in now, is just getting people warmed up to the fact that they can make these transactions.
Technology, I think, would help a lot of.
Victoria Muzumara is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Shop Z Investments, an e-commerce company. She says she is happy with the progress made to grow e-commerce in the country. She is, however, concerned with the bureaucracy in registering the e-commerce startups.
I'll do a comparison. We always do comparisons with other countries, but I think when there's people that are a little more developed, we can learn from them. For example, in the US, there's a Small Business Administration that really supports small businesses. I think there are some businesses that get a little bit of notice from regulatory bodies, but I don't think that there's much happening in the e-commerce world. I think there's been something to do with payments that I've read about with Bank of Zambia. But other than that, there's really nothing going on in e-commerce industry separate from ICT. So I think it would be great to have a little more, even just information. There are a lot of e-commerce companies that are coming up, a little more information on how to go about doing business, what the expectations are, let's say from ZICTA or any other information regulating authority. I think it would be great to have a little more guidance.
But the Ministry of Commerce says it has designed a one-stop online platform that enables people to fully register a new business.
We're also setting up an integrated system for business registration, where we're bringing together the Patents and Company Registration Office, Zambia Revenue Authority, NAPSA and Workmen's Compensation, as well as Zambia Procurement Authority, all on one platform for interaction. And what that really means, it helps the consumer or it helps the business person to be able to interact only once with government and still get all the other services. So if you register with Patents and Company Registration Office, for example, you automatically be given your TPI number. If you don't have it, you automatically be registered with NAPSA and so on. So this is something for us is very, very critical because it helps in reducing the cost of doing business, as I said earlier, and also brings a lot of efficiencies. And also, I think more importantly, it also reduces the aspect of corruption because as a business person or as a consumer, you're dealing with a machine or a system. You're not dealing with people. So it reduces opportunity for corruption.
Inasmuch as its primary purpose is to provide an easy and quick platform for people to do business in an efficient and cost-effective manner, e-commerce has a lot of pieces knitted together all meant to provide a service to consumers. One of the most important pieces on the e-commerce puzzle is a payment gateway. Payment gateways are softwares and servers that transmit transaction information to acquiring banks and responses from issuing banks. This can be information on whether a transaction is approved or declined. Essentially, payment gateways facilitate communication within banks or other monetary and financial institutions. Despite its importance, such services have not been readily available in Zambia. Even though some institutions in the country have started offering payment gateway services, some e-commerce players are concerned about this service.
Ideally, the way it should work is that when you go online, you can swipe your card or enter your card details, and then just like when you go to walk into a shop, you get a receipt and you are done. But what happens is that when we first started, there were almost zero payment gateways in Zambia. Right now, we can see some mushrooming up. So we had to use an international payment gateway, which means we had to use a foreign currency in order to process. So just right now, I know that many e-commerce companies face the same problem in Zambia, and just integrating a secure payment gateway is one of the challenges that a lot of companies are facing, e-commerce companies.
Payment gateways require users to share their bank credit numbers with institutions handling transactions for an e-commerce entity. And Maano Kambeu, a seasoned e-commerce enthusiast, feels Zambians are conservatives who are still very passionate about using hard cash to pay for various goods and services. He, however, says Zambians need to learn to be more comfortable with e-commerce services if the sector is to flourish.
The penetration is still very low. I think numbers have it roughly as, internet penetration in homes. Last numbers I checked was in the low 20%. And so what we're looking at as an industry is what can we do with mobile technology, especially simply because the penetration using phones tends to be a lot higher. We're talking about nearly 70 to 80% of the population. And of that, you're looking at how many has smartphones. So we still have a long way to go. And not only with the Western world, but when we benchmark ourselves against countries like Kenya, like Nigeria, like South Africa, you tend to find that technology and electronic commerce in particular has much higher penetration in that market. And one example I can illustrate to give that point is we still do a lot of cash-based transactions. So we're building electronic systems, but we have to build them with cash components factored in, simply because we still have a large percentage of the population wanting to go somewhere physically, give someone money, and get a receipt back.
Technology experts say the relative risks associated with e-commerce and the internet in general is sending shivers in the hands of many Zambians with the potential to click and engage in transactions online. The emergence of e-commerce has come with a horde of challenges. E-commerce users in Zambia have been victims of new and sophisticated waves of crime. And the Zambia Communication Technology Authority, ZICTA, has put measures in place to ensure consumers are protected.
We decided to harmonize consumer complaints procedures by making sure we go into an MOU with Bank of Zambia, such that if you reported a matter to ZICTA through our 7070 complaints toll-free number, depending on how it is, we can refer you either to Bank of Zambia or to the police, because we work in collaboration with the police as well, and they'll be able to help you. But as much as one would say that there'll be complaints about non-delivery, the fact that there are complaints, it means people are using the e-commerce platform, which in itself is not such a bad thing. But those complaints we have to get to a point where we have preventive maintenance, where those complaints shouldn't be made at all.
E-commerce has become dynamic. Social media platforms such as Facebook and WhatsApp are also being used as platforms to sell and buy goods and services. Brian Malama is an administrator of a WhatsApp group where people sell and buy cars amongst themselves. He says a number of people have bought and sold cars on his platform without encountering any challenges. Mr. Malama, however, says some members in such platforms have ill intentions, and thus consumers should be cautious as they engage in the business.
I advised every person in the group to say, be cautious with the person you are dealing with, and also make sure that before you meet, make sure that you don't do any transactions before you meet. Not until you meet, you see the person, you see the vehicle. Those thorough investigation about the property, where it's coming from, who's the owner, is it with valid documents. You just make sure before you are tempted to go into it.
The Consumer Competition Protection Commission, CPCC, is offering counsel to consumers on the best practices of doing business on e-commerce platforms.
Before you engage yourself in a deal with a trader to buy a product outside the country, you need to make sure that you go through that website, check the online reviews by other clients to see what are the people saying, what are other people saying about this particular company. Is it a genuine company? Because if you review, then you'll be able to tell whether you are going into a good deal or not. And then what are the other things that we're telling consumers is that they need to make sure that the website clearly shows it's the name of the name and contact details. In case a consumer has a complaint, it should also show their complaints procedure, because that way you are sure to say that if I have a complaint, then I'll be redressed.
Government, through the Ministry of Transport and Communication, is drawing up legislations that will consolidate and standardize protocols and procedures that will protect consumers against internet risks and threats.
We've crafted certain bills that we're going to bring to Parliament, 5 of them total. That is one attempt to start understanding and closing the gaps that could be utilized by these abusers and these fraudsters. Those bills are the e-government bill that we are working on. We're working on a cyber security bill, working on cyber crime bill, we're working on data protection bill, and the fifth bill is the e-commerce bill that you spoke to.
Other than the known risks in e-commerce that usually involve fraudulent activities, the high tariffs on talk time and data are also said to be among some of the reasons affecting the growth of e-commerce in Zambia. Brian Malama is involved in a business that requires him to have talk time and data at all times. But at times he goes without the commodity due to its high price.
Internet in Zambia, particularly, it's very expensive. There was a time when government had said they was going to put up some internet towers. I got excited about that, but unfortunately, it seems like the program hasn't materialized. I just don't know if that will be a success one day, that will have maybe those towers whereby you just go to a certain area, you access internet for free, and then do your thing there and there.
Zicta is well aware of this and says it will continue to engage authorities on the issue.
We have to also understand that we have tax on the ICT. The ICT. For the last few years, we haven't had any tax reduction. in the area, in the ICT sector. So this is something that we have over time been presenting. Before the budget is presented, we've been presenting and appealing for less tax in that area. Because the moment we have less tax, I think that will really help.
And government has revised regulations to allow a forced mobile operator to set up base in the country. The move will instantly create competition in the market, a situation which will most likely dictate a reduction in talk time and data tariffs.
We don't want to say to stop the private sector, to overtake us, to be ahead of us. There's nothing stopping them. That's why, again, government is creating this environment that is very enabling to the private sector so they can embrace it, probably at the same speed or even faster than us, because our people are in a hurry to receive improved services and improved quality of services through embracing e-commerce.
In e-commerce, it is standard practice for either the consumer or the dealer to organize a courier service provider who is expected to deliver purchased goods to a preferred address of a consumer. Nevertheless, unnumbered houses and business places, not forgetting unnamed streets mostly found in unplanned settlements, makes it difficult for courier service providers to fulfill their mandate. Houses and business places in most unplanned settlements around the country are casually located by their proximity to community landmarks such as clinics, churches, and even trees. And ShopZ Investment is keen to share how they have struggled to deliver groceries to their destinations.
When we first started, one of our very first customers, because it was so difficult, I think our first delivery was in Chawama, and it was very difficult to kind of figure out like where are we going to go, how are we going to find the place. So what our first customer did, thankfully they were tech savvy, so they actually went on Google Maps, Google Earth, and then drew us a little addressing thing and told us, this is a pink house with the plaster on it and things like that. So that kind of helped us see that we had a long way to go in terms of addressing. One thing I think that Zambians are used to, which hopefully we aim to improve, is we kind of are used to giving directions. So we have a few things that we're kind of working on to integrate to make it a little easier to do the addressing system. But mostly what we do is people just tell us, just give us directions.
But Bongo Hive has a suggestion on how best courier service providers can make use of their available resources and technology to locate customers in the absence of well-planned and named residential areas.
The quicker we can get to making sure that every single road is named and making sure that every single place has got a house number, makes it easy for a person to say, but then we also have to give credit to people to volunteers around Zambia that are making the effort to make sure that Google Maps, for example, has got the right details. So there are volunteers who make sure that on Google Maps they're adding the correct details to say this is the street name for this road, this is the office park that exists here, this is where, this is for Centos. Now I've seen a lot of that happen for places like Lusaka, the bigger places like Ndola and Kitwe, but we need that to happen for every single place in Zambia. So that the experience that I have of, let's say we need to make a delivery that goes into Kawe, we need to make a delivery that goes into another town, Chingola, make sure that it can get to the right place, to the right address and all that stuff. The alternative to that is people using Google Maps.
For e-commerce to fully grow holistically, all houses and streets that exist need to be named and numbered respectively to enable courier service providers to easily complete the e-commerce cycle. Government, through ZICTA, had recently embarked on a project to name streets and number houses. After findings from the street naming and numbering project, government has announced that the project will be relaunched.
We've had this project. In fact, the launch of this project is going to start very soon. And the project is a postal code project where all housing units, all business units, every housing unit, business unit that needs to be numbered in this country is going to be numbered, so that we can actually have someone order something online from Amazon or Alibaba, and it will be delivered to their address, to their doorstep.
Despite the bottlenecks currently prevailing in the e-commerce sector, technology experts are optimistic that e-commerce is poised for success.
we do not have a choice but to start using more and more technology for our transactions. One, because it's going to be a lot safer, but two, it opens us up to the rest of the world with regards to being able to provide services outside the country. Now, not just consumer goods, but also goods at a commercial level, where goods that we hope to grow. We're talking about being a net provider for agricultural produce within this country. We're talking about being a net provider for various finished goods within this country, but they have to find a way outside the country. So we have to find a way for people to find those goods, be able to make a purchase, do that transfer, and then So in 5 years, if we continue to work on that course, I believe that we will move towards more transactions. People's lives are getting busier. So I think being able to buy goods and have them delivered to your home is going to be something that's going to become pretty normal.
And the Consumer Competition Protection Commission, CCPC, feels having specialized e-commerce consumer protection officers will safeguard the consumer's welfare.
Specialization would really enhance the service delivery in that when an officer is specialized, it's easy for them to add the knowledge on to add knowledge in the way that investigations are done in that particular field, because then they'll be building up from the previous case to see maybe what the gaps were at that point, and also there's a lot of research that the officer could embark on to understand the challenges. We could be even more proactive than being reactive to the consumer complaints that would be coming on board. So for me, specialization has been something that I personally believe in, but then I think the challenge that we have as CCPC is manpower.
Zicta has also noted that new regulations have been put in place to enhance the sector.
We may have a situation where we can actually have an area that one would want to invest in and provide a network for. However, we have to be very careful. As much as we are encouraging more players on the market, and we know there'll be a lot of competition, of course, the economists will say that, yeah, that would be good and it will reduce the price, the tariffs, they may reduce this and that and the other. But we also have to protect the industry, because if we open it to the point where it's every Tom, Dick and Harry comes in, you find a situation where people are excited, they come in and they don't perform, but they will have wasted everyone's time, and then it makes the market very unstable. So even as you're opening it up, you have to open it up with wisdom. So that is why I find the process has taken a while, because we had to bring in so many stakeholders, and we also had to look at the companies that are already on the market, see how they can continue to perform and grow the sector.
If fully embraced, e-commerce in Zambia stands to have a great influence on the country's economy. In technology circles, e-commerce is referred to as the virtual gold mine. However, for e-commerce to have the anticipated influence in the country, Zambians must begin to deliberately embrace the virtual marketplace. This is where we come to the end of this week's edition of News in Depth, where we have been looking at the development and evolution of e-commerce in Zambia. I have been your host, Masauso Mukwayaya. Next week, join Ruth Kamwi as she looks at factors surrounding the appreciation of the culture. Pleasant viewing.